G'day, Geoff Lewis here from Seriously Series, and welcome to another campfire cooking video, or camp cook video. Here today I thought I'd put my own spin and take on damper, and this is one of the most quintessential recipes that you can store away in the back of your head when you're going out camping or hitting the trail. So if you want to find out how to make a really nice bush damper in your camp oven, then you know what to do. Support Seriously Series on Patreon. Click on that subscribe button down below, click on that notification button too, but most importantly, stay tuned. Okay, so the ingredients are incredibly simple, and I'm going to do a plug here because it is the flour of choice on this channel. Wallabies. Wallabies baking flour. Australian made for Australian conditions. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to get 500 grams or half a kilo of flour. Now the best thing to do with this, and I nearly forgot it, is a sieve. Now you always sift your flour because, particularly if you're travelling on corrugated roads and you've got a sack of flour like this or even a small bag, it will compact over time. And then when it comes to actually making your bread or making your damper, it won't rise and it will have a lot more of a sort of gluggy dough-like texture to it. So it's always well worth to sift your flour. Now, as I've mentioned in other videos, your pannikin. It's always good to know how many cups are in your pannikin. This one's about 2 cups, so I'm just going to go about 1, 2, a bit more. So it's around about 5 cups of flour, which is pretty much what that is. We then just want to gently sieve it. There we are. Now we then want to use a little bit of baking soda, and this will help to actually get it to rise. So just 1 teaspoon, which is 25 grams. Put a little bit extra in for good measure, because the wind got some of that, and I do apologise for the audio. A little bit of cream of tartar goes in quite nicely too. Just put in sort of half a teaspoon of that. Little pinch of sugar. And usually we chuck a bit of salt in, but I've left the salt at home and I've run out in my rations, and I haven't driven past a salt lake in quite a while, so just got to go without, but that's okay. So then what we do is I use a fork, and that just helps to mix everything in nicely. Helps to sort of fluff it up a little. Right. So now that we've got that, we need to add a little bit of water. And the best way to do it is to keep it simple and just add a little bit at a time. So put in about half a cup and then just mix it in. Always make sure you've got a heavy duty wooden spoon. As many of you have seen on our previous bread making video, I actually snapped one. It's hard to get a good wooden spoon these days. Which means we just need to add a little bit more, but not a huge amount more. Probably another cup. And when it comes to making bread and damper, you don't want it to be too wet, otherwise it won't work, because you've got to remember you're going to knead it in, and that's going to help sort of compress it. So that's getting pretty good there. So put a little bit of flour on your hands. Move the camp chair out of the way. And then we're just going to sort of squeeze and gently sort of compact it together. Now it's still a little bit flaky, so we need to add a little bit more. And don't worry if you add too much water. Oh, this wind's getting a bit much. Don't worry if you add too much water, because you can just put a bit more flour in. So, you know, you can save it. Now the best thing to do to save dishes is doing exactly what I'm doing now, and that is actually knead your damper in the bowl. Because otherwise, yes, you can do it on your camp table or whatever you might use, but you'll waste a lot of water cleaning it up. And that's coming up pretty good. And it'll start becoming a bit more sort of smooth in its outward sort of appearance. I'll show you in a minute. We're getting pretty close here. Generally with most bread and damper, you've got to at least knead it for about 5 to 10 minutes, because I think it's, one of my friends mentioned, it's about breaking the fibres or something down in the actual, or the gluten in the actual flour to get it to activate. Right, and there we are. As you can see, a nice smooth complexion overall. It's nice and springy. And that's it. That's your damper. So make it into a nice ball. And then the best thing to do is to get a knife and just put a cut, carefully obviously, don't cut yourself, in the middle like so. Because when it comes to actually rising in the camp oven, these will break off into 4 different pieces, or there'll be a nice groove in between, and you can just break it off and then dip it in your stew or your soup. Anyway, I better get it over to the fire, put this in the camp oven, and yeah, we'll see how we go. Right, let's see how we've gone. I've left it in for about half an hour. I have checked it once, but the anticipation is always gripping. Oh, look at that. That is perfect. I'll just sit this down. Now we should be able to just, yep, get it to spring. And that means it's done. It's nice and golden on top. There's a little bit of a sizzle to it. Anyway, now I've got to get it out. I've got to cut a slice. Here is the end result. Now I did put it in for a little bit longer because it was a little bit doughy in the centre, but you get that because we're not cooking in a studio here. But as you can see, we've got a nice doughy texture here. It's pretty dry, easy to pick off. Absolutely delicious. So let's cut a slice off. Perfect. One thing that's going to make that even better, some butter and some bacon and eggs.